Hi, my name is Briyonna G, and today we'll be talking about the Fairness Doctrine. So, before we get into whether or not I agree or disagree with the Fairness Doctrine, I wanted to define it for you. So, in our textbook, it says the Fairness Doctrine, as it relates to television and radio, must one, air programs discussing public issues, and two, include a variety of views about controversial issues with the public. So, different views do not have to be presented in one program, but the station's overall programming had to reflect important opinions about controversial topics. The commission justified this fairness doctrine by pointing to licenses' responsibility to the public. So basically, if you were going to be utilizing the spectrum, this was considered a public resource. So the FCC basically enacted the fairness doctrine to say, because this is a public resource, the public's First Amendment rights to hear both sides of an issue far outweigh the infringement on the broadcasting network's First Amendment rights. So this was passed in 1949, and then in 1987, the FCC changed this rule, finding that the Fairness Doctrine violated broadcasters' First Amendment rights. It's a little bit going back and forth here. The commission said that the broadcasters censored themselves under the Fairness Doctrine, choosing not to present discussions about important public issues. So basically, because they enacted this Fairness Doctrine, broadcasting systems, if they did anything or shared anything that was controversial, they had to give room for the other viewpoint to be shared on that network. So instead of doing that, they just steered clear of all controversial topics, which then limited the public's view of important information and important controversies, which was the opposite effect that we were going for when we enacted the Fairness Doctrine. So they got rid of it in 1987 or 1989, 2 years later. The District of Columbia Circuit Court of Appeals agreed with the broadcasters and the Fairness Doctrine was ended. The website Britannica says it this way: the Fairness Doctrine was never without opponents, many of whom perceived the equal airtime requirement as an infringement on First Amendment rights. So this brings me to whether or not I agree with the Fairness Doctrine. And to answer that question, I do not agree with the Fairness Doctrine. I agree with what our textbook says in that the Fairness Doctrine limits the broadcasters want to share controversial topics, and so it's also limiting the flow of information to the American public. So I do feel like it's causing less information to flow out than it is helping more information to flow out. I found some very interesting articles when it comes to partisanship, and one is from the Stanford School of Humanities and Sciences. The author Paul Underwood writes, studies done in the past few years show that media consumers of all backgrounds put truth over partisanship. This is an unfortunate thing, but a lot of times people are seeking out information that goes along with their worldview, goes along with their political view, goes along with things that they've already agreed with. And at one point, it was believed that this was limited to people with less education, less financial means, certain demographics. Were more partisan than seeking the truth. But the reality is that most people from various backgrounds of wealth and education also do the same thing. And then he goes on to say, we saw it on both political sides and even among people who scored well on reasoning tests. We were a bit surprised to see how widespread the tendency was. People were engaging in a lot of resistance to inconvenient truths. So unfortunately, people would rather be partisan versus seeking out the truth. So, what is the solution, right? What is the solution to this issue when we see people who are leaning more towards partisanship versus the truth in news media? How do we help with that? So, I found a resource on Carnegie Endowment that I want to share a few takeaways from, but I do want to note that unfortunately, when people have deep rooted beliefs, there's no one size fits all solution to this. This would be considered a complex issue, a complex problem, which would making adjustments in certain areas will cause more issues that you would have to make adjustments for, which might cause more issues. And so it's a complex issue that requires a complex solution. But I do think there are some things that we can do to help eliminate some of the partisanship. The website Carnegie Endowment shared several ways that we can help with partisanship and polarization in the media. And so I want to share some of those with you. One was call out your own party. So call out your polarization, hateful behaviors within your own party group. Don't ignore it. Don't act like it doesn't exist, like an ugly stepsister. Like, really call it out. If there's somebody who's being hateful or spiteful, a certain group of people within your group, call that out. The second one is avoid bad jokes. I am known for bad jokes, and this is something that I have to remind myself of often. But bad jokes, puns, and funny memes about political views can be very prejudiced and very polarizing, so avoid them. Make social media kinder. Remove hateful messages, reduce widespread hatefulness and jokes, and curb polarizing speech. Number 4, emphasize disagreement within your party. So there are people in your group who do not agree with every policy that your group historically stands for. So just call that out and make sure people understand that not everybody in this group agrees with everything that this group is broadly associated with. And then number 5, avoid repeating false information. An example that they gave was Obama is not a Muslim. When people say Obama is not a Muslim, people will remember Obama is a Muslim, maybe. Instead, say Obama is Christian. Say what's true, not what's false. So the fairness doctrine is something that I do believe was well-intentioned and could have helped, but it ultimately had an opposite effect, causing there to be less information to the public. So I don't believe the fairness doctrine is the solution to partisanship or polarizing information, but I do think there are some things that we can do as individuals to help make a difference in our community and social media and helping limiting polarization. So I hope this was helpful, and thank you.